effort.
Write your name, your unit.
Fort Campbell has a 7-day transition process called reintegration. Today, on day 4, a thorough medical screening.
And here we have our health readiness team and stations. This is where the soldiers get their health readiness screening done. Every soldier goes through this station. It's mandatory. You just make sure that they don't have any problems before they want to go back out on leave.
Regardless of rank, everyone must go through every station, including a psychological screening. This soldier agreed to be photographed during his interview and is not diagnosed with PTSD or another psychological problem. But soldiers who do have obvious problems, from stress to prescription drug abuse, will be identified right here.
We're talking anything from a depression to marital problems to PTSD, any type of anxiety problems, alcohol and drug problems. So by no means does it focus specifically on PTSD.
Are you having any mental health concerns today, sir?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
This is our second deployment. So if you were to look at the numbers that the whole Army's actually are reporting, which is about 17 to 19%, we're pretty much getting that same number right now. But it's early, and so we don't know how things are going to change over the next couple of months.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, sir. We're glad that you were safe and you returned. Okay?
Reintegration at Fort Campbell mirrors an Army-wide approach to easing soldiers' return to routine base life. A 2006 Army study found 35% of combat veterans sought mental health counseling within a year of returning. A 2004 DoD report found 15 to 17% of veterans from Iraq had symptoms of major depression, anxiety, or PTSD 3 to 6 months after deployment. The number for Afghanistan was just over 11%.
One of the things we've learned is that if we wait about 90 to 180 days and we bring them back, they've been off block leave, we bring them back, a lot more will say, you know, now that the dust is settled, now that I'm home, now that we've had the immediate honeymoon period is over, I've noticed that I'm really having these problems.
When soldiers first come back, they're so glad to be home that the full impact doesn't really quite hit home. And when they get around friends and family and loved ones, they may be the first people to call attention to the fact that there's some symptoms happening. So, certainly one thing I would urge soldiers is to listen to those who love them.
Certainly our message is to reach out to every person who may be having symptoms that are concerned, emotionally distressed, or really anxious, or serious problems, feeling very depressed, to reach out for that help. We want them to do that.
How many service members have you seen that in this type of situation?
Those identified with psychiatric problems in the reintegration screening at Fort Campbell are referred immediately to staff psychiatrists or social workers.
Mostly been sleep disturbance.
Even before I left for Iraq, I was seeing service members that would self-present to our clinic. They understood that they were having some problems and they wanted to be in good shape before they went over. In theater, we were always approached by people. I could be in the chow hall and someone would come up to me and say, "Doc, you mind if I stop by and see you?"
There is much greater high-level support for efforts to maintain the mental health of deployed troops than ever before.
There has never in history been as comprehensive an effort to address those issues by the services with individuals when they return and while they're there.
And I can also tell you we have a very active combat stress program in theater, and we have an assessment team we bring over annually to check on the mental health and how we're doing on that. But something we treat in theater as well.
The Marine 883rd Combat Stress Control Company devised a stress breaker in Camp Ramadi, Iraq. Regular opportunities to play with Alan, a military canine. Combat stress teams composed of psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers are deployed to both Iraq and Afghanistan. They run clinics, monitor the mental health of units, and provide an outlet for troops to talk about their combat experience.
Don't we all have a need at some point in time to talk to someone, to have someone to be able to look at what we're going through?
Like a normal medical condition, if you break your leg, you got to go have it fixed, right? You got to go to the doctor and get that squared away. It's no different with your mind, and it's just important for people to realize that.
Colonel Charles Engel, head of the Deployment Health Clinical Center at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, says the team's most valuable role may be simply being there for the troops after a stressful incident.
Try to be close to where the soldier is and where the trauma is being experienced so that we can be there in an immediate way to provide assistance, rather than rushing out with medications and psychoanalysis, that we take care of basic needs. We rest them, feed them, give them the chance to talk about what they've been engaged in. I think the earliest strategies are remarkably simple. They're not rocket science.
We pulled through pretty well.
Unit leaders, like First Sergeant Neil McKinley, watch for signs of stress in the troops under them.
And the soldiers during the deployment, you look at the soldiers start actually being by itself, loner, and real quiet, and 1,000-mile stare. So the things you want to look for when a soldier normally talks, start being real quiet. And that's a sign of some type of stress. You want to identify that.
Chaplains are also depended upon by the mental health professionals because troops may be more willing to talk openly to them.
We tell these soldiers that you experienced abnormal things, and not many Americans experienced what you experienced, saw what you saw, smelled what you've smelled. All of those senses that we take in impact us emotionally, physically. So it's important that we learn how to cope with abnormal things in as normal way as possible.
On return, the Army wants officers and NCOs to be watchful for what the psychiatrists call battle mind.
Just the battle stress or the stress of danger, but just being away and operation tempo and sleeping and all that. You come back here, you're still in that mindset, and you need to kind of basically come down from that, relax, readjust. And that's, for some people it's harder than others.
It certainly is true that people get wired for sound while they're over there, and it takes a little bit of time to get back to a regular sense of how daily things are going to work.
Hypervigilance and some of the other attributes that are good in combat become excess in a peacetime garrison environment.
That's one reason why the Army now requires all soldiers to be brought back and rescreened for psychological problems 90 to 120 days after their return.
Well, I think at the first session, we get the people that are clearly having problems right now. They probably had problems while they were in theater. But what we basically expect to see in the 90 to 120 days is, our soldiers that may have been struggling some, but weren't willing to identify themselves as having a true problem. But after the stresses of work, family, their finances kick in, all the things that they've not been dealing with over the last year, we expect to see more people have problems.
We care a great deal about the young men and women that are serving our country. We know that these are trying experiences that they go through.
Following soldiers will be awarded the Purple Heart.
Just ahead, after years of silence, denial, and suppression, open talk about the wounds within. When Recon continues.
It feels slow motion to me.
Former Marine David Powell still vividly recalls the 1967 incident outside Da Nang, Vietnam, when he was wounded.
I saw the track of a bullet pass through the flak jacket of the fellow in front of me, and it was as though someone was pulling a thread. And the velocity of a bullet isn't such that you can ordinarily see it.